In this chapter, the course truly lifts off to a new level, as you might expect in a chapter entitled The Holy Instant. And we're privileged to be able to meet in this format and go over it and share our experiences and try to understand it in more depth. So, hello and welcome to Miracles on High Plains. My name is Jonica, and our reader for this session is Atisha. We're going to go back, as is my habit. This throws Atisha off sometimes because, we're going to go back one paragraph from the previous section to remember where we left off.
In the Holy Spirit alone lies the awareness of what God cannot know and what you do not understand. It is his holy function to accept them both. And by removing every element of disagreement, to join them into one. He will do this because it is his function. Leave then what seems to you to be impossible to him who knows it must be possible because it is the will of God. And let him whose teaching is only of God teach you the only meaning of relationships. For God created the only relationship that has meaning, and that is his relationship with you.
Mm-hmm. So a couple ideas there. We'll just recall. This is actually the union of heaven and earth. So in the awareness of what God cannot know is earthly, and what you do not understand is heavenly. The Holy Spirit is aware of both. And the Holy Spirit's function is to accept them both. How? By removing every element of disagreement. So all the grievances and confusions and judgments are going to be removed from your mind. And what remains, the Holy Spirit joins into one. So all your loving moments on earth are remembered forever. They are part of you. And they'll be joined with what the things that you do not yet fully understand, which is the holiness of heaven. This is the Holy Spirit's function. Although it seems impossible to our earthly point of view, it is possible because this is the will of God. The extension of heavenly principles and light and holiness to everything is God's will. And the Holy Spirit knows how to unite them together. And so, what does that mean? That means that we unite with all of creation and all souls within creation, which are referred to in short, the shorthand term for that in the course is your relationships. Your relationships with all the members of creation and with the Creator. God is the Creator, and He initiated a eternal loving relationship with everything and everyone, and that is where the meaning of love is found. But again, I'll back up a minute. One of the great philosophic questions within the course is, what is the meaning of love? And the course teaches, well, the meaning of love is the one that God gives to it, not the one that the mankind or the earth would assign to love. And then we learn that that meaning is found in our holy relationship with creation. So that's where we left off in the previous section. I want to welcome everybody. I'm glad you're here. And so we'll pick up now with our new material.
As the ego would limit your perception of your brothers to the body, so would the Holy Spirit release your vision and let you see the great rays shining from them, so unlimited that they reach to God. It is this shift to vision that is accomplished in the holy instant. Yet it is needful for you to learn just what this shift entails, so you will become willing to make it permanent. Give, for it is permanent. Once you have accepted it as the own perception you want, it is translated into knowledge by the part that God Himself plays in the atonement. For it is the only step in it He understands. Therefore, in this, there will be no delay when you are ready for it. God is ready now, but you are not.
As is often the case, the very first paragraph is so profound and so lofty. And, we come into this kind of from whatever we were doing 30 minutes ago. So let's orient ourselves here. It's talking, what is it talking about? It's talking about a shift in our perception from being released from guilt into a new vision, a holy perception, a perception sponsored by the Holy Spirit. We'll come back to the great rays, but let's bypass that for a moment and then realize that this shift to vision is contained in the experience of the holy instant. In the holy instant, you don't drag along old perceptual guilt, fears, and judgment, for that acts as a block to the holy instant. But all those things are released, and in the holy instant, it both requires and is a shift in your perception, but it's a temporary shift. It's in an instant or a moment. And now let's see what it has to say about that. Every single being in creation needs to learn what this shift entails so that you would be open and willing to make it permanent. It is not permanent until you learn to be open and willing to let the holy instant be permanent. It has conditions that you have to meet. So it is intended we become permanent with the holy instant, but let's say that's further in our spiritual journey, which requires, again, willingness. I want to use my pointer here. There we go. It requires willingness. And what are the conditions for making it permanent? Total commitment. It requires that the holy instant is the only perception you want. For in other words, you can't be a part-timer and make the holy instant permanent. You have to want your heart, your treasure, your internal values have to be fully aligned in order to make the holy instant permanent. And God plays a part in all that. This is referred to in other places as the last step. And the last step, there will be no delay when you are ready for it. You're ready for it when you want this to be the only perception that you want. And so there is a logic to the progression within A Course in Miracles, and breadcrumbs are given all along the way. And once you recognize the pattern, they become fairly easy to understand. And let's see, got some people joining here. Okay, one more thing that I haven't mentioned is the great rays. And I would prefer we don't try to dive into it deeply here, but you might be very interested in a deep dive into the great rays. So, what we know is that creation is a creation of light, and that light has been given to all of us, and that there's the inner light within you. It's a spiritual luminosity. It's it exists on the spiritual plane, and they are great. Anything given to you by the Creator as a part of Himself is great. And yet, it requires our willingness to let that light shine. For if we're unwilling, we can interfere with that light. It doesn't put the light out, but it does obscure the extension of that light temporarily until such time as you are ready. And as it says, let there be no delay when you are ready for it. God is ready now and waits for your readiness. And those of you that might remember from a while back, we talked about the trumpet call of this program is to be ready, willing, and able to listen to the voice, able to make corrections so that we align with the Holy Spirit, and then willing to help others to heal in their own journey. Ready, willing, and able. You have to be ready for it. Question. So that's all I have to say on that for now. Comments, questions? We'll go on.
Our task is but to continue as fast as possible the necessary process of looking straight at all the interference and seeing it exactly as it is. For it is impossible to recognize as wholly without gratification what you think you want. The body is the symbol of the ego, as the ego is the symbol of the separation. And both are nothing more than attempts to limit communication and thereby to make it impossible. For communication must be unlimited in order to have meaning, and deprived of meaning, it will not satisfy you completely. Yet it remains the only means by which you can establish real relationships, which have no limits, having been established by God.
Mm-hmm. So, beginning at the top, our task is but to continue as fast as possible. There are many appeals within the Course that urge us not to waste our years by it being preoccupied with illusions, but to, as quickly as possible, undo our fears and the ego's perceptions and join with the Holy Spirit and live the happy dream, to be happy and learn to heal ourselves and help others to heal, to we're urged not to delay. And it all hinges around, this is the universal truth, it all hinges around the undoing of all the interference. For the great rays are already given, they're already within us. Their ability to shine so that they bring healing to the world is dependent on undoing the interference. And this very much hinges on what you want, or at least what you think you want. Said again, undoing the interference depends on what you value, where your hope and faith are placed. For wherever you place your faith and your hope, that's where your heart will lean. And it's up to you. It's a free will choice. And you will believe that no matter where you place your hope and your faith, you will believe that that will make you happy. Although we can be very mistaken in that hope, misplaced hope, misplaced faith, best termed within the Course as a miscreation or trying to make an illusion real. And then we go into, in this paragraph, the topic of communication. Again, we have to go up to the highest level to understand the meaning here, because we're not talking about vocalizations per se. We're not limited to vocalizations or anything that we are accustomed to on Earth, like a recording or a video or whatever. We're talking about being in touch with the higher planes of your own spiritual being, being in touch with your own eternal nature and recognizing that eternal nature in everyone else, and recognizing that all that comes from the source, the creator. So the ego attempts to limit communication and would have you believe that it is impossible. But spirit knows that the creation was intended to be perfectly united and at one with pure understanding, no confusion, no interference. We call that unlimited communication. And that's where everything makes sense in this state of unlimited communication. That's where it has meaning. And oddly enough, the opposite of that, being limited communication or being outside of the domain of spiritual vision and clarity, will be a state where things are confusing and where you will try to understand the non-understandable, the ego's nonsense. And I think this is true of us all, have spent years in trying to understand the ego's chaos. And it has no meaning. It makes no sense. And so it was misplaced faith in attempting to understand the non-understandable. It will not satisfy you completely. So, summary, the only means by which you can establish real relationships is through communication, holy communication, perfect communication. It is without limits. Why? Because it's the type of communication that is established by the Creator himself. Now, that might raise questions about what is this communication as it should. We certainly are going to elaborate on that further as we go on. Perhaps not completely in this session, but the remainder of the book, of the textbook, is going to be help to understand the difference between limited communication and unlimited communication, communication with no limits. God plans for the entire creation to be fully informed. There's no secrets, there's no confusion, there's no barriers to the light. I'll pause for questions. If not, we'll go on.
In the holy instant, where the great rays replace the body in awareness, the recognition of relationships without limits is given you. But in order to see this, it is necessary to give up every use the ego has for the body and to accept the fact that the ego has no purpose you would share with it. For the ego would limit everyone to a body for its own purposes. And while you think it has a purpose, you will choose to utilize the means by which it tries to turn its purpose into accomplishment. This will never be accomplished. Yet you have surely recognized that the ego, whose goals are altogether unattainable, will strive for them with all its might and will do so with the strength that you have given it.
Mm-hmm. So we said very much depends on what you value, what you want, where you place your faith. And the ego has no purpose, which, let's see, let me read the whole sentence a minute. This is an important point here. It is necessary, talking about the interference, to give up every use the ego has for the body and to accept the fact that the ego has no purpose you would share with it. For the entire bed of confusion of the ego is its efforts to convince your mind to join it in the ego's plan, using the ego's so-called laws and its priorities. And so the way to free ourselves from that confusion is to not share in those purposes that the ego has. And the ego's purposes center around the body, this temporary collection of cells, of tissues, of flesh and blood that lives only a short time on the earth and then is back to the dust. The ego would have you center your entire identity around the body. So that becomes the blocking mechanism. The ego would limit everyone to a body for its own purposes. Of course, it won't happen, but you will strive, the ego will strive with your mind, with using all its might, and will do so with whatever strength you give to it. When you give your power to the ego, that's how it gets strong. By your miscreating the use of your willpower is misdirected towards sharing the purpose of the ego. And with that, you give your belief to it. And the mind is a powerful tool. And so when you give your belief to the ego's purposes, they seem to be real to you. And it will strengthen the efforts of the ego to convince you that its agenda is meaningful and worthy of pursuing. Make one more comment about the great rays. Notice one more clue. Where do you catch the great rays? In the holy instant, the great rays replace the body in awareness because the recognition of relationships without limits is given you. In other words, in a holy encounter where it's really your higher self connecting with the higher self of the other, all that really matters is the love, what we share in common, the one mind, the one love, the one light. That's where the great rays shine. I've never seen them with my eyes, although others report having seen them with your eyes, but I feel them with my heart. And so, for those of you that speak more of that language, think of it in terms of when your heart is shining bright with another person and theirs is shining back at you. That's my experience of the great rays. And I have found that I've had those experiences with people that I just met 5 minutes ago. I mean, this does not require in-depth years of knowing a person. In fact, in some ways, it's easier when it's spontaneous and original and unexpected like that. We'll go on.
It is impossible to divide your strength between heaven and hell, God and the ego, and release your power to creation, which is the only purpose for which it was given you. Love would always give increase. Limits are demanded by the ego and represent its demands to make little and ineffectual. Limit your sight of a brother to his body, which you will do as long as you would not release him from it, and you have denied his gift to you. His body cannot give it, and seek it not through yours. Yet your minds are already continuous, and their union need only be accepted, and the loneliness in heaven is gone.
I really love this. I guess I got a little excited with the bolding and the centering the text here, because it's so profound. So let's restate this in the positive, because this says it's impossible to divide. I'm going to restate that. When you unite your strength towards heaven, you release your power to creation. This is the only purpose it was given to you. For the giver, the loving giver, would always give increase. Uniting your strength towards heaven and God will release your power to creation, because there's in this state an united, a undivided state. You're not splitting yourself between ego and God. You're totally willing to give all of your strength to God. This is the ideal state. This is when you know you're ready for the final step. This is when the holy instant becomes permanent, when your strength is undivided. Again, this is written in the double negative, impossible to divide. It is possible to unite your strength for heaven and release your power to creation. On the level of the mind, which is the only factor that undergoes a shift in this process, For the great rays, the divine light within are eternally constant. They don't change, but the mind changes. Your mind at the highest state is already continuous with all other minds. There is only one mind in all of creation, and that union only needs to be accepted. And by your meaning complete acceptance, which we spoke about in previous sessions, total acceptance, and then the loneliness of heaven. Oh, oh, uh, this is very interesting. What is the loneliness in heaven? It says the loneliness in heaven is gone. What is the, now you might ask yourself, this is tricky. What is the loneliness in heaven? And so I will give you the answer because I know it's difficult. The loneliness in heaven are as a result, or the feelings that we have here now as a result of our strength being divided and our communication being limited. We're actually in heaven right now, believing that we're in some kind of hell. We're actually a part of the divine union at all times, but our mind believes that we're separate and guilty and fearful and judgmental, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We believe in the evil world theory and all that stuff there. So we're experiencing the loneliness in heaven whenever we feel separate. And in the holy instant is the reversal of that. It's the union of all our strength. It's the dropping away of all that identification with the ego, and it's uniting with the divine union. And even if just for a moment, a temporary experience, lonely, that is the opposite of loneliness. That is true joining and coming together. So it's an unusual phrasing. It took me a few thought cycles to figure out what they were referring to. The loneliness of heaven is gone when your union with the other minds of creation is accepted by you. The loneliness lifts. Not to say it would never return, because we know how time and space quickly return to encroach upon our awareness. But as we said earlier, you can make this permanent.
If you would but let the Holy Spirit tell you of the love of God for you and the need your creations have to be with you forever, you would experience the attraction of the eternal. No one can hear him speak of this and long remain willing to linger here. For it is your will to be in heaven, where you are complete and quiet, in such sure and loving relationships that any limit is impossible. Would you not exchange your little relationships for this? For the body is little and limited, and only those whom you would see without the limits the ego would impose on them can offer you the gift of freedom.
So for those of you who've been listening for a while, a little quick quiz here. It says, it is your will to be in heaven where you are complete and quiet. Then what is it that causes us to feel like we're elsewhere, lonely, in chaos? What if it's our will to be in heaven, what is it that is interfering with the acceptance of that, the great light, the great rays? And the Course calls it's our wishes to have things be different. It's our wish, our faith in some kind of other plan, some kind of other thought system, some kind of other perceptual system. It's our and this winds up affecting our choices. We wind up making choices that are and dividing ourselves between heaven and hell, and then by investing in the belief in figurative hell, by investing in the belief in a hell, we are blocked, limited, and lonely. In the midst of the heavenly light, we feel loneliness.
You have no conception of the limits you have placed on your perception, and no idea of all the loveliness that you could see. But this you must remember: the attraction of guilt opposes the attraction of God. His attraction for you remains unlimited. But because your power, being his, is as great as his, you can turn away from love. What you invest in guilt, you withdraw from God. And your sight grows weak and dim and limited, for you have attempted to separate the Father from the Son and limit their communication. Seek not atonement in further separation, and limit not your vision of God's Son to what interferes with his release, and what the Holy Spirit must undo to set him free. For his belief in limits has imprisoned him.
Mm-hmm. So, as we read earlier, the only thing that stands in the way are this interference, these thoughts of the ego. And as you know, it was the title of the previous chapter, the attraction of guilt opposes the attraction to God. And, describing that attraction to guilt, we use many different words. But here's one. Uh, the reason why we feel guilty, this is only one of many, is because we turn away from love. Because when we are called by love as the source of our being in our own nature, when the Holy Spirit calls us to be loving and forgiving, we sometimes make other choices. And that has, as a result of turning away from love, we feel badly about ourselves for making a poor choice. This is the attraction of guilt. Turning away, turning towards fear, turning towards judgment, turning towards grievances, condemnation. It goes on. You know the long list here. All that has a certain sick attraction towards guilt. And all of this is really due ultimately to the mind not being trained and from unconsciously stepping into the ditch again and again and again, not because we really haven't been there before, but because we weren't paying attention and we fell from the higher estate once again. And the Holy Spirit is very patient with us, very understanding, more patient with us than we are with our own selves. And so what the Course recommends is that you divest yourself of guilt, and that you look elsewhere for salvation, that you believe in the vision of Christ, the holy vision, the holy perception that is offered you, that you accept that as your guide and your teacher, and trust the Holy Spirit will set us free, for the belief that other things will work, the ego's solutions, wind up imprisoning us and keeping us, it robs us of our hope, it robs us of our vision, and it instills a state of distrust. And what is the cynicism, disbelief in the power of love to heal? All this because we followed the wrong guidance system and turned away from love when we needed it most. So when's that going to end, Atisha?
When the body ceases to attract you, and when you place no value on it as a means of getting anything, then there will be no interference in communication, and your thoughts will be as free as God's. As you let the Holy Spirit teach you how to use the body only for purposes of communication, and renounce its use for separation and attack, which the ego sees in it, you will learn you have no need of a body at all. In the holy instant, there are no bodies, and you experience only the attraction of God. Accepting it as undivided, you join him wholly in an instant, for you would place no limits on your union with him. The reality of this relationship becomes the only truth that you could ever want. All truth is here.
Oh, well, while you were reading, I had such a wonderful idea and when the body ceases. Okay, so the ego, as we know, is got a philosophy called the getting concept. The ego is preoccupied with what it can get. And that, you would say, get what? It doesn't matter to the ego what it gets. It will shift throughout a lifetime on what it wants to get for itself. It's just the belief that the more I get, the better off I'll be. And it will even use people as objects to get what it wants. It'll go to any length to keep getting more and more and more, in the belief that external seeking will get you what you want. And so when you place no value on the body as a means of getting anything, when you realize that the great rays are evidence of something unimaginably valuable and powerful and transformative, you are realizing you already have received the gift of God. And so external getting winds up being viewed as just temporary acquisition of things, and it realizes that it's not satisfying. And so when you cease to see the body as a means of getting, then your interference in communication will be released and your thoughts will become free. This is the way it's intended to be. And the Holy Spirit will then teach you to repurpose your body. So this is very important, this idea is about to arise, because there's confusion amongst Course in Miracle readers around the body. There is an inclination to devalue, let's see how to say it, to attack the body, to be negative towards the body because the meanings the ego gave it, we're told, are not valid, and then so people turn to attacking the body. Well, that is not what A Course in Miracles teaches, that you should bash the body, that you should be alienated, that the ego teaches you should be alienated towards the body, but not the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit wants you to use your body for the purposes of the Holy Spirit. And that is for in your relationships, to use it as a means of reaching others. It becomes a temporary means. Obviously, it only occurs as long as the body's alive, as long as you're in a body. So it's temporary, but it can be used as a means of reaching out to others. So the Holy Spirit teaches you how to use the body for the purposes of communication and renounces the use that the ego gave it for separation and attack. And then you realize, after you have joined with the Holy Spirit's purpose for the body, you realize that love does not need a body. That the one mind of all creation is not dependent upon the organs and the cells and the tissues and the functions of the body, that those capabilities are forever to love and to unite with the one mind of creation, and bodies are not essential to that. That sounds a little strange to say, but in the holy instant, you will experience a moment where the body doesn't matter. The joining, the union with another in a moment of holiness, that's all that matters. And that's where all the meaning is found. You will experience the attraction of God there. And it's it's an opening of your heart and soul to a moment of presence, holy presence with another, that you share that experience with a common sense of purpose. And we refer to this as the reality of the relationship. It becomes the place where you are free and alive and whole and transcend, even if for a moment, all limitations of the body. It becomes the only truth you could ever want. This is where we are able, through our own experience, to join in and unite with something far greater than anything that we can do by ourselves. It's far greater than the plan of this earth, the plan of time and space. It joins us with the greater plan of creation. And that's something we'll explore as we go forward, the greater plan of creation. So I was just going to look at some of the notes here from your chats to see if anything. So, comments, questions. I know this is profound. Again, we are talking about an experience, the holy instant, that is not taught by this world. So if it sounds strange, it's because it is, prior to the Course of Miracles, this language that it's using to describe here was unfamiliar, although many spiritual teachers have used their own words and their own language to describe this experience. This experience didn't begin with the publication of the Course of Miracles. It just, Course of Miracles puts a framework around it and a languaging system that we can share in and understand and learn little by little how to practice these things, how to let go of the interference, and how to recognize that this is where true happiness lies. David, you had your hand up.
It's me. It's really interesting, and it might seem silly to some people, but I know you'll get it, Jonica, because I've talked about it so many times. When the body ceases to attract you and when you place no value on it as a means of getting anything. I've had this journey with golf, and it's definitely in my life to be a teacher for sure. And my ego wants me to play great golf. That's what's important. How I hit it, what I shoot, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The Holy Spirit wants me, or what I have found is when I go there, not with Susie, but with the Holy Spirit, and say over and over again, I'm going to bring the darkness to the light, and I don't want the thoughts of Susie. And when I have felt, as you said, it doesn't always happen, but I have felt enormous joy and peace. And the byproduct of that, which Marianne talks a lot about, is I play great golf because I'm not even thinking about that as the purpose, as opposed to when I put all this emphasis on my body because I want to get good, I have no peace. And it's just so clear to me now that it's just a great example for me. It's very practical. And anytime I put emphasis on what my body to get anything, it's never peaceful. It's never lasting peace or joy.
Yeah.
So it's just a practical example, whether anybody can relate to that or not. But I just wanted to share it.
Yeah. Thank you, Susie. I shared the other day, but the statement, it's not in your push. In this program and in all spiritual programs, it's not in your pushing forward that you make contact with your deeper self. It's in your presence. It's being present to the gift that is here. So it's not doesn't take the forms that much of Western progress has been based on. Building a country in 200 years from coast to coast required a lot of pushing forward and putting lots of effort in and making things happen. And there's a place for that in building a civilization. But in your internal spiritual world, it's about allowing what was already given to shine. And I think Susie, in my own way, I interpret that's what Susie was talking about with her golf game. Of, when we're so preoccupied with the scores and how we're doing, we're pushing forward to get better and better and better. And and when we just let go and relax and be present, then the body relaxes and the mind relaxes, and we're capable of doing much better. This is true in many areas of life where you just relax and don't put so much pressure on yourself to perform in the moment. And then all of a sudden, the interference of being tense and frightened and anxious dissolves, and we're able to bring forth our best. So I know that you all will bring forth your best. Practice the holy instant. I have keep having experiences with in Uber in the car with Uber drivers. There's now 4 of them I've had, and so I don't think I'm not saying that all of you should do that. I'm saying that's one way I found that's happening again and again for me. But I'm sure in Europe you have your own lives where you have these encounters with people, and if you just meet them where they are, many times you'll find that the Holy Spirit uses that moment for a holy instant, and that's where the truth is found. So thank you all for your presence. Thank you for trusting and believing in this program and in these ideas. They are the most powerful ideas I've ever encountered. Thank you, Atisha, for reading. I look forward to talking again soon. Paul asked if we could stay a few minutes afterwards for question and answer, and so I'll hang on the line if anyone is interested in that, but you don't have to stay.
Thank you, Atisha.
Namaste.
Thank you, everyone.
Peace and love.
Namaste.
Welcome. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jonathan.
Bye, everyone. Thanks,
Good night,
Atisha.
Good night.